This is my audience, this is my dad, this is my aunt, my cousin, my mom, my grandma, and my doggy. Alright, did you know in 2011 a local StarCraft tournament offered its first place winner $500 and its 5th through 8th place winners 25 bitcoins as a consolation prize. With today's conversion rate, that would equal to over $1 million in US currency. Hi, I'm Nate. In today's speech, I'd like to talk to you about the massive industry of professional level video game tournaments, also called esports. You may look at me and think, yeah, this dude's definitely a gamer. And yeah, you'd be right. As the great Norman Osborn once said, you know, something of a gamer myself. Esports, once mocked as being sports for nerds, has now risen to become a multi-billion-dollar industry, now on the same level as major athletic sporting events, such as the NFL and the NBA. Modern esports have evolved to become one of the most watched forms of sports entertainment today, despite not being an actual athletic sport, which, in turn, could change the entire definition of what a sport is. To understand why the rise of esports began, we must start with how it came to be in the first place. Initial video game tournaments began a decent while before they gained the attention of the mainstream media, with the invention of the internet in the 1990s. Although esports did not get notoriety and media attention until the 90s, the first esporting event was held in 1972 at Stanford University, based around a game called Space War. The major rise of esports in the 90s was most likely due to the rise of the internet. The internet back in the 90s was used to help let others know about local esports tournaments, increasing turnout of the events. Now, back in the 90s, the internet worked a lot different than it does today. To host a local video game tournament, all you would do is set out a post on your Reddit or your Twitter.com, basically letting people know about the tournament, where it is, and how you can get started. Now, back in the 90s, it worked a lot differently. There was no Twitter, there was no Reddit, there was no just like sites where you could just post what you want, so you can have like shout outs to people where you could get a decent amount of views just for being on that site. No, back in the 90s, you would have to create your own website, and you'd have to host that website by yourself, which could cost actual money. To do that, even when you did that, you'd only get about maybe 5 or 10 clicks, while today you would get at least 30 or 40. Now, the internet also led people to start recording events, recording videos of events, making esports not only a tournament, but a form of entertainment for the average gamer. Now, again, to reiterate the point that the internet was a lot different. Back in the 90s, we didn't have anything like YouTube. To record a video, you had to record that video, then store the actual information on your own computer, which was not as easy back then as it is today. You'd have to get your own RAM storage, which again would cost you actual money, where the internet is basically free nowadays. Now, in the 90s, when esports was started to become a thing, it was only in-person events. There was no playing with other people across the world like it is now today, which is amazing to think about. First, you started with local tournaments only being against like your best buddies or your friends from school or college or whatever. But nowadays, you can play with people from all across the world, from Africa to Korea to Europe to Australia. Now that we've given a quick insight into how esports began, we can now dive into where it is today and where it's become the most popular. While esports are popular in most first world countries, esports have become a major titan of an industry, particularly in South Korea. Becoming a professional gamer in South Korea is much akin to becoming a professional football player here in the United States. Now, what I mean by that is that in the United States, a lot of boys are raised by their parents to become major sports players, where they would play in like camps, summer camps, stay after school to train in football to become a sports player and make lots and lots of money as a professional sports player. Now, in South Korea, it's very similar, but South Korea, they don't care about football, they don't care about soccer. What they care about is video games. They train their children to play video games, which is awesome if you think about it, because to me, video games are a lot more fun than sports. Like, you don't get tired. Well, your fingers get tired, but that's besides the point. Becoming a professional esports player in South Korea is an extremely lucrative career, with the highest paid players making more than $1 million per year. Now, you have to be pretty high to do that. That's like the top 20 of South Korean players, and they spend a lot of time and dedication. Now, just because video games are fun doesn't mean it's not work. Professional video games players spend just as amount of time training on their video games as they do as American sports players do, because it is a craft, and if you want to be at the top, you need to put the most work and the most hours into than nobody else. Now, just like all forms of entertainment, esports started extremely small in the 1970s, with the very first video game tournaments at Stanford University, to now becoming a billion-dollar industry. Once upon a time, being called a pro gamer was regarded as an insult. However, being given the same title is now akin to being a minor celebrity in most parts of the world, and a major celebrity in South Korea. I believe that esports is only the beginning to revolutionizing the world of esports, revolutionizing the world of sports in general. Esports is the first step into integrating non-athletic activities into professional sports and can lead to the change of the definition of the word sports in the future. Thank you for your time.